Welcome back. I'm Jocelyn Bamford. My guest today is Anthony Furey, and we're discussing the election that was the federal government election. Anthony, as we discussed before the break, last summer, many people who followed politics closely were predicting that the Liberals would replace Justin Trudeau with Mark Carney. Yet the Conservatives seem to be caught completely flat footed with no plan to run against Carney and no strategy. In your opinion, was that a strategic marketing error?
Well, I don't want to armchair quarterback or Monday morning quarterback too much here because there's a lot of things that go into these campaigns, but definitely there was an inability to really hold Mark Carney to account and to talk about who is Mark Carney, what is his past, what does he stand for. One really interesting observation that I heard that I read from one journalist, Kenneth White, who had been the founding editor in chief of the National Post. He has a great Substack. He's a publisher now, and he made the observation that there wasn't a single profile newspaper or magazine feature on Mark Carney anywhere, and that was the first time that that had ever happened in Canadian journalism that he could remember. So in past elections, you would have like a four-page spread on Michael Ignatieff or on Stephen Harper when he was first running, looking into everything about them, their history as a politician, what they got up to in their professional lives, stuff they did in high school and university, and all that. And Mark Carney is someone that we never really learned too much about. There's sort of drips and drabs really on social media out there. Some of the former prime ministers of the United Kingdom said that he was a disaster as the Bank of England governor. That wasn't really picked up on here in Canada and in the Canadian media. Well, why not? What was that all about? And that was an opportunity, I think, for the Conservatives to seize on that and teach people about Mark Carney a little bit more. I mean, this is someone who's sort of come into politics in something of a black hole. We really knew nothing about the guy, and he's a tabula rasa, by which I mean he's a blank slate that you can project what you want onto him. So I think the Conservatives didn't do a very good job of defining Mark Carney. Part of that had to do with a media that I guess was running cover for him. I mean, totally bizarre that no one wanted to look into Mark Carney and his past history and even just the positions that he held. He wrote a book not too long ago espousing his views. And while he is much more business minded than Justin Trudeau, a banker, someone who works in finance, someone who works in international business, he still has a very strong left wing ideology on many issues and economic issues, which is what the public had been rejecting in some sense under Justin Trudeau. So again, why wasn't Mark Carney better vetted? And that was an opportunity that the Conservative Party could have done and the Conservative war room in general to say, who is this guy? I mean, Jocelyn, I know he was, yes, Bank of Canada governor. So a lot of people in the Ottawa system and in the Ottawa bubble would have known him and been familiar with him. But, let's not kid ourselves here. Not only did the average voter not know who he was, but most of the Liberal caucus didn't know who he was. And yet this guy suddenly became their leader. And well, credit to them for party discipline. They got behind the guy 100% and backed everything. I think they're still just learning who he is. They may be in for shock. We all may be in terms of learning just who this gentleman is and what his views are and how he's going to conduct himself.
Yeah, and certainly when you look at some of the documents, like the G30 document he wrote with Janet Yellen, where he said if you were not subscribing to net zero as a company, that you should be debanked and de-insurance. The Conservatives just didn't pick up on that, so missed opportunity there. But Pierre Poilievre jumped on the anti-Trump bandwagon. Was that a wise decision?
Well, it really just chases after what Mark Carney was already doing. So the question becomes, do you want to follow your opponent down the same path to sort of eke out the support they're getting from that? Or do you want to be a differentiator in all of this? And do you want to distinguish yourself from your opponent? I guess they thought that there were people who were being wooed away from them to Mark Carney for that aspect. But ultimately, I don't think it ended up shaving off the support that they needed. It clearly didn't, because in a lot of swing ridings, it still swung to Mark Carney. Maybe they believe that the loss would have been even worse for them had they not done all of that. Perhaps there's a way to thread the needle for Pierre Poilievre to not come out, fulsomely in support of Donald Trump, because I don't think any person running for Prime Minister of Canada would support, the swallowing up of Canada into the American Union to be the 51st state, but to do it in a way that's different than Mark Carney, or to at least just speak on economic issues without necessarily pushing the same Trump critical points that Carney was.
Yeah, and exactly as you said, if you're following the person that sets the agenda, then you're just a me too. When we come back, we got to go to break, but I'm going to ask you, Anthony, if you oversaw Pierre Poilievre's campaign team, what would you do? So stay tuned. We're going to hear Anthony's answer to that when we get back on Canadian Innovators.